Hi, everybody. Happy Memorial Day. I hope you were enjoying a long weekend. And again, I'm sure you're not thrilled that I am putting together lecture material for today, but I want to remind you that you don't have to do the exercises today if you don't want to. I've given you until midnight on Tuesday if you'd like to double up on the work. But in the meantime, what I want to do today is spend some time mostly on refreshers, reviewing the concepts from last week, building on them a little bit more fully, and introduce a few new things. Okay. Now, first things first, when you open the program, you're going to get this welcome window. I wasn't getting it last week. There are some new materials and features available. If you'd like to learn more about them, you can hit see more here, and you will find, if you navigate over and you don't see my email, you will see here that there are manuals associated with these new offerings. Okay, so if you want to learn more about them, you absolutely can. You'll see down here at the bottom, their BOM mode is not ready yet. It's coming soon, but familiarize yourself with this, okay? This is something that I am sure you will be using very, very soon. So going back to Clo, I'm going to go ahead and close this window. My library is already open, but if it weren't, remember you can click to open that very easily. I already went over material like adding new folders with the plus sign, but I do want to point out here one more time that you do have this download button. And in this case, I do have a blue circle with an N in it, and that is indicating that there are new materials available to me in all of these folders. So if you are seeing something like that, you'll want to go ahead and download. Just wait a beat. Most of the time when I see this, it's anywhere between maybe 5 to 7 minutes. Factoring in that perhaps your computer's a little bit slower than mine, maybe it could take up to 10. So only take that on if you really have the time to do it. So what I'm going to do to get started is I'm going to go ahead and open up a file. I'll go ahead and open up this dress, give it a moment to load, and while it's loading and loading and loading, I will be moving on from library and I'm going to be going into history. And if you remember from last week under history, this is where you can go back and look at all of the different steps that you have taken in your file, go back and click on a previous action if you need to go back to it and make an adjustment. And in most cases, you want to do that when it's too far back for you to undo using Command or Control Z. But what I don't believe I covered last week is this concept of a 3D state. You'll see that you have a button opposite it. And if you click that, it will save the state of your avatar and your garment as it is presently. So if you have done some work to it and you're really pretty happy with it, but you want to perhaps experiment and explore and take it further, if you save this state and let's say you go forward 20 steps and have totally ruined this dress, you can come back to this 3D state. Okay. You can also right click on it. Let's see if I can do that with my trackpad. Yes. And you'll see that you can delete it. Okay. Now, the important thing to keep in mind with these 3D states is they are not saved permanently. So if you save this file and you exit, the 3D state no longer exists. Okay, so be very, very conscious of that. In addition, you can also have more than one 3D state. So let's say you love the way this looks right now, you move ahead 12 steps and you think, okay, this is even more awesome. Let me go ahead and save this 3D state. And you work forward a couple more steps and you realize maybe you've worked yourself into a corner and this new version actually won't work for whatever reason. Again, if you've got multiple 3D states, you can go back to whichever one ended up being the best scenario. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close history, and you'll also see that you have this modular configurator. I'm not 100% sure that we're going to be able to get to this in this 3-week period, but I do just want to point out that it does enable you to work a little bit differently. You can work with the concept of block libraries. And what that does essentially is perhaps you've got a body that works and you want to create different arms or different colors or different versions of this, but you don't want to have 10 garments. You want to just be able to change out certain aspects of this garment. It's something, again, it's a little new. It's something that I don't have as much experience with. I want to train on a little bit more if I can, and hopefully introduce it a little bit more deeply, maybe towards the beginning of the 3rd week, okay, if we find time to do it. Now, beyond that, I did introduce your menu, but I didn't really go super deep into it. I'm still not going to, but what I do want to do is come back to a couple of concepts. On your menu, if you come to your avatar and then look for your avatar editor, okay, you're going to see 3 areas at the top, and the one that you're most likely to play with is avatar size. And if you come down to details, you're going to see that there are 3 options here. One is basic, meaning that you would just use basic measurements to make changes to her. So maybe her waist is a little bit thicker, maybe there's some other aspect that you just need to change a measurement or two. You can go and input that. You also have advanced, and you have advanced dress form. So again, this is a little bit more specific to what your output would be in terms of size. Okay, and you'll see the layout of each of those changes. Okay, I'm just going to close that. I'm not going to make a change to her. You'll see if you come to your, I am not seeing this for some reason, my settings, I'm totally blind. You'll see that you have a couple options again that I don't believe I referenced last week. You'll see here you can change the language. Okay, I know we have a few students where English is not your first language, but you probably already know how to do this. You also see that you have this option for user settings. And here you've got a number of different options, and I'm going to go more deeply into user settings in another video. Okay, I'll go ahead and close this. Under help, okay, I think I briefly touched on this. Again, there's a manual that you can access in several different languages here, and you also have access to online tutorials. Okay. The one that I was looking for a moment ago was display. I was looking for the word view for some reason. Most of these options, I want to point out, again, just like Adobe, there's always 2 or 3 ways to do anything. And so most of the options here are going to align with your vertical toggle menu here. So depending on how you like to work, I just wanted to point out that you can find that material up on your menu if you like using the menu as a home base. Okay. In terms of the toggle menus, when I first was trained in CLO, I found the toggle menus a little bit confusing. And I don't know. I don't know if it was the intensity of the training sessions, but it just didn't occur to me that these are actually grouped in ways that very clearly make sense. You'll see here, if I hover at the top, all of these options relate to my garment. Okay, so I can just hover and you'll see things like seam lines and internal lines, base lines. But it's all garment. You'll see these are all trim displays. These are all related to my avatar. Okay, we have played with our arrangement points. There's a variety of things here. What might be most interesting to you right now is show X-ray joints. And using this, you can actually click on a joint and then rotate it. Okay. So I can make a move there. I can come over to another joint and make a move there. Okay. I took a little time earlier today to play with this. I wasn't as familiar with this area of CLO. And I spent some time making one of the male avatars look like he was doing the robot dance. So that was kind of fun. Probably not appropriate for your project, but I wanted to make sure that you knew it was there. Okay. And remember to turn off any of these options. You've got to go back and click the same button. Okay. Here you have textured surface. Okay, and these all relate to your fabrics. Okay, and the appearance of your fabric. So for instance, I can change this to mesh to actually see how this is rendered. Okay, or what is rendering my fabric, I should say. I can go back to the appearance of my fabric using thick textured surface. Again, we'll play with some of these options later. Okay. Then there are things like garment fit maps. You've got textured surface, which relates to your avatar, and then environmental display. Okay. Again, same thing here. You'll see garments, you'll see pattern options, information display, measurements, the fabric, or I should say the texture of pattern pieces to be more correct. Okay. Beyond the toggle menus, again, remember you can affect the appearance of your interface. So if you hover, you can shift the width of your windows, okay, to make one side larger or smaller. You can do things like undock the window. So if I click this, this window would become undocked and I could drag it over. For instance, if I were working with two monitors and wanted to put it on the other side. Okay, I'm not going to do that because every time I do that, I seem to sort of lose my window. I want to remind you again that the information in these two windows is exactly the same. These are the pattern pieces and this is the rendering of my garment. So again, it's the same material, they're just in different states. Remember, this is just a 2D state and this is a 3D state. Regarding the windows, again, remember each window has its own tools. If there's a little arrow in the corner, you can long press to see additional tools. It tells you the name, gives you a manual, gives you a link to a video as well. If you're trying to recall what this particular tool does, or if you need a little bit of help figuring something out. Okay. Finally, remember all of your material information is over here with your object browser and the property editor. Okay. Now I can open them up separately. However, I find that I very rarely need to do that. When I need them, I need both of them. Okay. So lean on opening both as you get more familiar with the program. Okay. Remember, your object browser, again, is essentially your bill of materials. So anything related to this dress is going to be up here at the top. I covered that last week, but I did want to share that you also have access to the scene. This may look, if you've used any other kind of 3D software, this may look familiar to you. But this is what's actually building everything that you see here. So for instance, in 3D simulation, I can go to my avatar and I can go, for instance, to her left eye. And remember, in 3D, everything is made up of mesh. Okay, so to see this, I need to actually click on the mesh. And anything related to her eye, which is what I have selected here, is now visible and editable to me in the property editor. So for instance here, let me zoom into her face. Let's make sure I can pan because I am using my trackpad, not my mouse. I'm going to zoom in some more and pan down. And again, you'll see it's yellow, meaning that it is selected. You'll see here the eye is being rendered with an image for texture. If I click on this, you'll see that a window opens and I can actually come over here and access the JPEG that was created to render her eye. Okay, so technically I could go in and recolor it. And I have not done that for this particular avatar, and I had that up a moment ago and it is gone. So I will just tell you, in Photoshop, I would open up that image. I used my elliptical marquee tool to select the iris, and then I just applied an adjustment. So I swung her blue eye, or the eye that I was using earlier, into purple territory. Okay. You also can come over here and simply play with color. So if I click on color and change it to red, okay, you'll see that there are some changes that you can make here, whether they are appropriate for this project, whether you like them, you know, is neither here nor there, but I want to make sure you know that you can come in here and access anything related to your garments, anything also related to your avatar. So really, again, we'll talk a lot about some of these pieces, but I also just want to make sure that you're coming in here and just exploring and experimenting and having a little bit of fun. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop this video here. I will be back with another one in a little while.